First of all, thank you very much for inviting us along to speak to the steering group today. As Mike said, we have revised the Gower AONB design guide, supplementary planning guidance, and I'm just going to give you a very quick run through of some of the changes that we've made and hopefully take questions at the end of the session. Hopefully you'll all be aware anyway of the original design guide that was adopted in 2011. Now, since that time, there have been a lot of changes in relation to planning policy and national legislation. Fundamentally, I suppose the main thing is that the local development plan has been adopted, and this supersedes the unitary development plan, which is the document against which the design guide was adopted as supplementary planning guidance. So the LDP was adopted in 2019, and there have also been various changes to Planning Policy Wales and to some of the technical advice notes which underpin the SPG, such as the Design TAN was updated in 2016 and the Historic Environment TAN was updated in 2017. There's also been a wealth of legislation changes such as the Planning Act, the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act and the Wales Environment Act. We've also had the concept of placemaking introduced. This is fundamental now to design in all scales and all places, and it's as important in small rural developments as in very large urban scale developments. So we have to have that embedded throughout the whole document, and that's one of the many changes that we've made. We think the design guide's been pretty successful. It's tend to be used quite well by planners, by agents and by the Plan Inspectorate when they're looking at appeals and deciding on appeals. And so we think it's a really useful document that we wanted to update and maintain it as a material consideration against the local development plan. Of course, we all know that development pressure on Gower is continuing. We have allocated a number of small housing sites on Gower. We've also got continued pressures on conversion of rural buildings, for example, and in terms of new signage and anything to help develop the tourism economy on Gower is really important. And we want to make sure that all these developments do not have any negative impact on the landscape, because after all, as we all know, it is the AONB, and that is what attracts the majority of visitors and people to Gower. The existing document sits alongside several old SPGs for lighting, for advertising, and in terms of the residential chalet developments. We saw this as an opportunity to embed all those documents into the design guide. So it would be a one-stop shop for developments and for anybody who wants to look at anything and seek guidance on development on Gower. It's important to note we haven't included caravan and campsites in this document, the same as we haven't for the first document, and we are hoping to produce a second caravan and camping design guide, which we're currently drafting at the moment, and that would be applicable to the whole county. So one of the key aims and objectives of the document is to ensure development doesn't undermine the very landscape that makes Gower special. We realise that a large number of visitors are attracted because it is the first area of standard area of natural beauty, and the economic impact to the visitors and the amount of money they help generate for the county's economy is really important. We emphasise now placemaking and design objectives. So any development must adhere to these now, and to ensure that Gower's distinctive character and heritage, both built heritage and the natural environment, is enhanced. And for clarity, because the regulations regarding the AONB reflect to both the developments within the AONB and anything that affects the setting of the AONB, this guidance does also apply to anything that is outside the AONB but may affect the setting of the AONB. So it is really important to say that it's not about freezing Gower, setting Gower in aspect in time. We want to encourage sustainable development for a sustainable future on Gower. So we did the review in collaboration with Litchfields, who helped us with the first document. Litchfields went out and looked back again at all the communities and the villages and the settlements on Gower and helped us remap all those. The document has been refreshed throughout. Some parts have been extensively changed, others only very, very minor changes relating to new planning policies in the local development plan. We've updated the development management process section, and we've also added significantly to the biodiversity and ecology advice and embedded green infrastructure throughout the document, as this reflects new legislation, and Rachel will talk about those in the next few sessions, and the links to those new SPGs are quite clear in this document. The section that's actually most used in decision making historically has been the residential module. There haven't actually been a lot of changes to this module because we think it works really well. Most of the changes are factual to update to the new legislation. So the main changes, we have 2 new modules. Like I said, we've got many old chalet communities on Gower. These are historical plotland developments, which are really, really important part of Swansea's historical urban form and built form. So historically, we've got SPGs relating to these and how they should be managed and developed. These SPGs date back to the 1980s. So we've now put those together and put a new module in the SPG. This only refers to residential chalets, not holiday chalets, which are specifically dealt with under different policies and have a different planning remit and purpose. So these are the old chalet developments, and we've also included Owensfield in this now, which previously didn't have its own SPG. This guidance in this chapter isn't intended to just look at those named settlements, though. We are aware that there are individual, quite isolated such chalets as well, scattered throughout Gower, and this would affect any proposed development or conversion or rebuild of those chalets as well. We've also got another new module, which is the lighting module. This has been produced in to help protect the dark sky environment of the Gower AONB, and it reflects the dark sky community commitments and the IDA guidance. And it is hoped that this will replace the existing SPG we have on lighting on Gower, which was adopted in 2010. So other changes throughout the document. Since the first guidance was produced, we have done significant work in collaboration with colleagues and partners in relation to landscape and seascape on Gower. So we produced the landscape character areas in 2013, was produced by John Campion Associates, and this defined the Gower landscape character areas on Gower and went further than the land map, which was previous baseline in the old design guide. The landscape character areas and this piece of work was quite important as background evidence when we were producing the local development plan. And so we've, in order to make sure that the LDP and this SPG have both the same baseline evidence, we've tried to incorporate as much as possible within this SPG, and that will then give it sense as a material consideration and give it some weight as well. Similarly, Seascape, we've incorporated local seascape character areas within this, which were defined in the local seascape character assessment, which was produced in 2016. And again, this will give this document additional weight as it's incorporated now as part of this SPG. Module 5, tourism, we've updated this and added quite a lot of new information in relation to signage and advertisement, and this is intended to replace the 1980 SPG advertisement policy in Gower, because we've even small advertisement panels and signage cumulatively can actually have quite a detrimental impact sometimes. So we thought this was quite important to try and set out some clear guidance within this document that people could easily refer to. One of the major changes has, of course, been to the settlement statements. This is a significant area of the document. We've updated, well, Lichfield's updated the OS base maps so that any recent developments since the 2011 guidance could be seen and mapped. We refer now to the landscape character areas to give that document to tie back into the LCA work for John Campion. We've added key village boundaries where they're relevant in relation to policy CV1. And we've identified areas of green focal space, visually significant tree belts, and wide-ranging viewpoints. Because policy CV1 talks about there may be areas within key villages which maybe shouldn't be developed and should be protected if possible. And this gives that a little bit of weight and a bit more guidance where we think those areas within the villages and which parts of the villages add to their character and should be protected. The original design guide didn't contain settlement statements for Kittle, Pennard, or Penna Southgate and Clamorlice. And so we've recommissioned statements for those, and they have been included as well in this document. So in total, there's 6 SPGs which we hope to replace with this document. And you can see they range from the 1980s until 2010. And we thought this was a good idea to consolidate everything. So at the moment, we are out to public consultation. This launched on the 4th of September, and we run for a 6-week period. It will end at 5 p.m. on the 16th of October. Because of COVID, we were hoping to go and do a lot of community events and public face-to-face consultation. Of course, that's all had to be re-looked at and re-examined. Even when we were hoping to launch this, we still thought we might be able to do something, but all the restrictions are changing week by week, as you're aware. So we've launched the specific survey form on the website, which we hope everyone will fill in, because these have got targeted questions we hope people will look at and answer. And then there's a comment box for any other questions or any other queries. And we welcome, full and frank discussion and comments on the document, because we'd like to know if we think we've missed anything or we need to elaborate on anything. Everything is welcome. We are doing more of these sessions as I've listed these, and hopefully people will be able to, if you can't make this, you can let people know and they can maybe dial in and look at this recording and fill in the form as well and have a discussion that way, or contact us that way. So that was a very quick, brief thanks. I'm aware we're short of time. So are there any discussions or any questions or anything you want me to answer? Is that okay, Mike?
Sorry. Yes, Ruth. I will just read out the website address. It's swansea.gov.uk/SPG consultation. Right. I'll just switch off the recording now and we'll do questions and answers for about 5 minutes or so, I think.
Okay.